guys, welcome to Fit Talk.
Okay, so
Alright, what's up guys? We're here at Austin Rock Gym.
what's going on, guys? So again, welcome to Fit Talk, and today we're going to be talking about a controversial subject. Might be a little bit of old subject, but I think it was important for us to bring up, and it is CrossFit versus bodybuilding.
Or bodybuilding versus CrossFit, however you want to put it.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point. I don't want to ruffle any feathers here.
No, we got to keep it even.
So I think we should start with a little bit of background so that we can talk about why we think we're qualified to talk about the subject.
Okay, cool. I'll start. So I actually started CrossFit back in 2009. Started it pretty casually, and then it became competitive. So I did it competitively for probably about, I don't know, 4 of those years.
Were you good?
I was decent. Okay. I was not elite level by any means, but I was above average.
Did you like qualify for things?
No. No. I never qualified for anything. Well, I qualified for regionals one year. That's what qualifies you then to go into the games with a team out of a CrossFit gym that I was working out at. We qualified 2 teams that year, but I didn't end up being able to go because of an injury.
I see. Okay, you Romoed it. All right. Mm-hmm. All right, so here we go. Yeah. Okay, so 2009, you started doing CrossFit.
Yeah, 2009, started doing CrossFit. Got pretty competitively into it, and then started to burn out. I'm very competitive. I like to win at stuff, and I knew that I wasn't really gonna ever win on a big scale with CrossFit. I'm just not that caliber of athlete, maybe, I don't know. I also wasn't really into it anymore. I just kind of got over it. I was burnt out. I've been doing it for a long time. So I decided to shift gears and try for a figure competition. And not just try for a figure competition, but move my whole training regimen to a more bodybuilding bro style of working out. Right. And that's where I am now. It's still kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So.
You look a little more bro-esque these days. So, okay, so that, and it's interesting to me because, and we literally we just found this out yesterday. But so I started whenever I got in the industry, I went to personal training school. I actually moved here to Austin just for that, to get in this industry, and I ended up doing getting into the bodybuilding world. And one thing that was also interesting, kind of side note, is the founder of Naturally Fit. It was my first coach, David Lee Nall, and he's the one that inspired me. He was a WNBF pro, and so an all-natural pro bodybuilder.
The tallest ever.
The tallest ever.
All natural.
I'd never met a pro bodybuilder before, and he was like the first pro bodybuilder. So I was, this was like oh my god, like,
stars in the eyes.
So he took me under his wing and like prepped me for this show, and so I did well at the show. It was actually a fit model show, so it wasn't actually bodybuilding, but I did this show, and then that's kind of how I started my journey. And so, I engulfed myself with the bodybuilding or bro style of training for a long time, and kind of similar to you, and it was the same year that you started CrossFit is when I started bodybuilding, but kind of similar to you, like I competed a lot, and I did okay. Like I would do these regional events, these local shows, and I would do okay. I competed in the NPC, I competed in what's now the NFF, I did different organizations, and I did okay, but like I'm a small person, and I'm like never going to be a huge person, and maybe unless I cross some moral boundaries that I'm not willing to do anymore. So it's like one of those things that like I kind of felt like I maxed myself out, and I also kind of turned off to the industry a little bit. I got burnt out, and so then I started like dabbling in CrossFit.
Yeah.
Now I'll admit I've never done a CrossFit competition necessarily. I've never, I haven't even done an official. Okay, I did one CrossFit workout at a CrossFit box.
Okay.
But what I did was I started surrounding myself with friends that knew CrossFit, and I started getting some programming from them, and I started doing that here at FTA Gym. So I did like do my homework and kind of got into that world to understand CrossFit a little bit more. So basically, like we like cross paths.
Yep.
So
yeah.
It's really, really interesting to me. So I think that we're qualified to talk about this topic because I think we've both seen both sides of the story.
We have. And I drank the Kool-Aid from both sides
yes.
as well. So I mean, I think everybody watching this probably understands that
this isn't Kool-Aid.
It's not Kool-Aid. that if you ever want to know who a CrossFitter is, that's all they talk about is CrossFit, right? Well, it's the same thing with bodybuilders too. That's all they ever talk about is bodybuilding, or what they're going to eat, or what they already ate, or when they're going to eat next, or what their workout is, or
absolutely. And so I think like the way to segue into this, so what this video is just an open conversation from a CrossFitter, a bodybuilder, and also the vice versa, but it's an open conversation about the controversy against bodybuilding and CrossFit. And the first thing that I want to talk about is, and basically like this segment is ignorance is bliss, right here on the screen. Ignorance is bliss. Whenever I say ignorance, it's one of those things. It's like I don't fault people for not understanding something, right? Like, but the truth is, in most cases where we see the hatred or the memes or the crap
chastising something you don't understand.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. It's like you're looking down on something that you don't fully understand and you've never experienced.
Right.
And I think that's like the appropriate place to start here, right?
Right. Absolutely. So starting there, I guess. One of the biggest things, and you brought this up the other day when we were talking about it, is let's talk about the pull-up, right? Yeah. Okay. So bodybuilders look at a kipping pull-up or a butterfly pull-up in CrossFit, and they're like, that's not a real pull-up.
Right.
But they're missing the entire point.
Exactly.
Go ahead, elaborate on
that.
that.
So okay. Let's first of all like look at a bodybuilder and what they do. So. In personal training school, and when we're teaching trainers, we talk about, there's a big word that we use a lot, and it's specificity. And what it is, we have to train somebody specific to the event that they're training for.
Right.
A lot of times that's not considered because we start training in our way or the way that we learn, and we assume that that's the only way.
Right.
And if somebody's doing it differently, then therefore it's wrong.
Right.
But the thing about being right or wrong, it's subjective. It depends on the specificity of what you're doing.
So specifically speaking, why does a bodybuilder do a pull-up?
Okay, so a bodybuilder does a pull-up because his or her goal is to get bigger lats or get bigger back muscles, the whole posterior chain. We're trying to grow or take a small muscle cell and hypertrophy or grow into a larger muscle cell. That's the goal. And what we know about muscle growth is that it takes a certain amount of volume and time under tension and range of motion, and there's certain things within the program that have to be there. And so a strict pull-up makes plenty of sense.
Right.
So why does a CrossFitter do pull-ups?
So a CrossFitter does kipping and eventually butterfly pull-ups to be more efficient because they want to be able to do more repetitions in a short amount of time. So it has nothing to do with aesthetics or even growing the muscle size or anything like that. And it is a progression, so please understand when you're seeing people doing kipping and butterfly pull-ups, I hope that their coach, being a good coach, has taught them first the foundation of a strict pull-up.
Sure.
And then they progress into the kipping pull-up, and then we progress into this butterfly pull-up. And the butterfly pull-up being the most efficient out of all of these, and so you can sit there and you can rep out 100 pull-ups in, a very nominal amount of time. I have no idea how long it would take, but but that's the point. That's the specific reason why a butterfly kipping or kipping pull-up is done.
And the competitive aspect of CrossFit in most cases is like to get the best time or the most number of repetition.
Exactly.
And so
in the most efficient way possible.
Right. And so doing a strict pull-up makes no sense for that. That is the best way to get the worst score that you can.
Right.
And so here's a little bit of irony with this. So like with the kipping pull-up, first of all, a lot of times bodybuilders or the bros out there training that way will obtain some video or something of a beginner in the beginning stages of progressing into a kipping pull-up, and it looks ridiculous, and maybe it is wrong, even to a kipping pull-up.
Right.
And all of a sudden that turns into this ridiculous meme, and it's like, look at all the CrossFitters. Now here's why I think it's ironic. Have you guys ever seen Branch Warren train? One of the best bodybuilders of all time. If we want to talk about like form, okay,
but he can't even do a full range of motion, anything.
You can't throw rocks in a glass house, and that's what kills me.
Well, it happens constantly. That's what's going on both ends of the spectrum all the time. Is the pot calling the kettle black? It's hilarious.
Yeah, and like that even goes into like CrossFit is dangerous. You know what I mean? Like CrossFit is dangerous. Like I hear that all the time. I don't do CrossFit because it's dangerous. First of all, I agree to an extent, but also like
any extreme sport is going to be dangerous,
right? Including bodybuilding.
Absolutely. You push yourself to those limits. You push yourself to those extremes. There's going to be some level of danger that's going to be involved in that. So again, pot calling kettle black.
Yeah.
So, but I think kind of segueing into something, our next little section here, and that's learning from each other.
Yeah.
I think that a lot more of that is starting to really come to fruition. And so, for example, going back to the pull-up, CrossFit athletes that are serious about becoming better CrossFit athletes are still doing strict pull-ups. They're just not going to do them in a competition because it's not efficient, doesn't make sense. But to get stronger at the kipping pull-up and the butterfly pull-up and the muscle up and the bar muscle up and everything else that they have to do, they do a strict pull-up still.
Yeah.
You know, so
well, can you tell me, so what is one of the most common exercises in the gym that you rarely to ever see CrossFitters do?
In what gym?
Any gym. Like if you went to a gym, like any mainstream gym of any kind, like one of the most common exercises on the planet.
Oh, like a bench press.
A bench press.
Right.
But what is one of the best CrossFitters of all time actually do in his workout program?
Rich Froning does a bench press.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's actually a lot more of that going on, you know, and okay, so when I first started CrossFit, no, I didn't do bench press ever, okay? Fast forward to, you know, right before I made the switch over to doing bodybuilding, my coach at the CrossFit box I was going to, he programmed in, because he was smart and had amazing programming, he programmed in things like bench press and strict pull-ups and things like that, because they're going to still transfer over into building strength to make you a better CrossFit athlete. Now, we're not going to do a lot of or CrossFitters aren't going to do a lot of the really isolated movements that,
right, yeah.
you know, maybe some of like calf raises or things like
like
that.
Concentration curls.
Concentration curls, those make zero sense for a CrossFit athlete, but they can still, but the other movements can still be utilized. But that also goes to the other point for a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Bodybuilders are starting to use a lot more CrossFit style workouts for their conditioning.
Yeah, and that's one thing. So basically, you know, we started off with like the kind of this like ignorance, if you will, because I don't understand what you're doing, you don't understand what I'm doing, and then there's this hatred and this bantering. But now, like, we're starting to see the industry start to kind of like mold together a little bit. And so like she mentioned, in CrossFit, we're seeing a lot of adopted things from bodybuilding being used, which is great. And then now, like, I still program for a lot of bodybuilders. I actually am doing programming for Emily here right now, getting ready for her. It'll be her pro debut, actually, her national pro debut. And so that's exciting. And I've got Alex and Beth, I've got Amin, I'm doing a lot of programming for people. But if you look at my programs, and this took years of development. Like,
right.
I didn't just start off like just program this way, but because I spent some time in CrossFit, I find it to be very effective in regards to conditioning and anaerobic capacity and things that I also need bodybuilders to do. So the conditioning side of you guys' workouts, you might do like a clean or thruster burner WOD, you know, maybe something quick. It's not a full out, you know, it's not Murph.
Well, yeah, today I cashed out my bodybuilder workout with a 21-15-9 rep scheme,
Yep.
push, press, and deadlift. That's a CrossFit workout. That's
Sure.
what that is. But it also keeps it entertaining too, because, you know, as much as I love doing bodybuilding stuff, you know, you got to keep it mixed up in the gym, and so being able to throw these little types of different, instead of just, you know, getting on the stair mill or getting on the treadmill or for your cardio, throwing in these other pieces, I think it keeps it entertaining. It keeps it fun.
And what's crazy? So a lot of guys that even some folks doing my program don't even recognize. So like you've got the little CrossFit component, like at the end of some of the conditioning. A lot of bodybuilding, like volume and supersets and like drop sets, and like there's a lot of like heavy volume stuff in there. But in the very beginning of most all the workouts, I actually stem from powerlifting more than anything, and I use percentages to track progression through powerlifting. So like, you know, like I said, like I'm basically trying to pull from different like genres and different like styles to create a muscle hypertrophy or growth specific workout. And I think CrossFitters are seeing the same thing. Like, I can be more efficient or faster or whatever by taking some of these strict movements or overload movements. So.
Absolutely, focusing in on that type of stuff.
Cool. So hopefully you guys like this video. Like, here's the thing, and one of the reasons we made this video is because so I come from like the bodybuilding background. A lot of things we do here at FCA Gym are like very bodybuilding specific, and over at Naturally Fit we see a lot of CrossFit stuff going on.
Yep.
And we work very close together. And I think that the next time when you're ready to click share on that goofy meme or bro science video making fun of CrossFit, or CrossFitters you're making fun of bodybuilders, maybe instead of doing that, you can look inside the other genre and figure out how you can learn from that person.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
by the way, none of this excuses any douchiness on either side.
No,
okay?
it doesn't.
There are bros on both sides.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's going to still be your people that are going to be hardcore on either end of those spectrums and not be able to wrap their mind around working together.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for watching Fit Talk.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.